Hello, my name is Abigail Klutz, and in this video, you're going to get to take a look at one of the first private preview Ketone 101 calls that world-renowned fitness expert Paul Carter did for a group of people out of the Singapore and Hong Kong area. Right now, they are in a private preview business launch phase where they are able to get their hands on Keto OS Max with the company Pruvit and start the conversation in their area. Paul has been championing this conversation in the United States and Canada for the last 3 years, and he covers the benefits that people can expect to see and how ketones are helping people optimize their health. He'll go over anecdotal evidence and even how everyday people or athletes can utilize this innovative technology to hack into their body's better fuel system. We brought this technology to market almost 3 years ago. And I happened to be at the round table before we ever started the company and got to experience it. And I remember taking my first drink. It was in California, and I had met there and just had been hearing about this amazing technology that they were using with Navy SEALs, and that we were getting the patent to it, and we were going to put it in a company and deliver the first therapeutic ketones to the marketplace. And at the time, that was scary for me. It was scary to think about launching something I didn't know a lot about. And when I kept asking people, what do you know about ketones or ketosis? Nobody really knew anything 3 years ago. And so it was definitely a risk, but the greatest business risk I ever took. And I know that Robin and Sarah were really early into the game with the Canadian launch. And what's cool is when we launched in Canada, we had already really blown up in the US. And so they got to launch with more validation. And, then we've really expanded in Canada. Last year, the Australian market started taking it, loved it. And we've had so much anecdotal evidence come back, so many amazing stories. The science has progressed so quickly on what they're finding because of the marketplace and the business model in which we put it in. And so, if you're on this call today, you're a part of that business situation where it's at the very beginning. And the good part for you is it's not a risk. We know that the product works. We know that people are crazy about it. We know that once you experience it, you don't ever want to not. And with this today, when we pull together for Zooms, we like to lead with educational value. It's what our company is all about. So I brought on Paul Carter, and he was one of the first people that I approached with it. Because I know how skeptical he is. I got connected to him, and I knew that he would try and disprove a lot of it. And he has so much experience in the health and wellness industry. He's a researcher. He's very analytical. He's a writer. He's very cautious. No hype, no gimmicks. And Paul, he's really a world-renowned fitness expert, and he's worked with a lot of professional bodybuilders and elite powerlifters and athletes. He also reached out to Charles Poliquin, who's the world's #1 strength and conditioning coach. And Charles wanted to be on board with this and utilize this for his athletes as well. but Paul's also written for Muscle and Fitness Magazine, Flex Magazine, T Nation. He's the featured guy on bodybuilding.com, and he's got several books that people order for strength building, muscle training, and he's got some in the hopper right now that are about to launch, and they're going to be huge. So with that being said, you really can't learn probably more science and anecdotal evidence than from Paul Carter today. So we're very privileged to be able to pull him on. And we're going to start with just a little bit of what we call a ketone 101, where we really break down what this technology is for you and how it can be utilized. And then after that, we'll talk just a little bit about the conversation and the rewards opportunity that we have here when you create that ripple effect within your own community. So with that being said, Paul Carter.
Well, good morning, guys. I'm a little bit out of it. I had an emergency this morning that had me scrambling for a while, so I'll try to collect myself to get rolling here. First off, thanks to Abby for the introduction, and thanks to all you guys for being here. I want to talk and kind of allow this to transcend, understand how we got here and why this supplement is really kind of separated from all the other supplements in the industry that have come and gone or are still here over the last, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. Well, we kind of have to understand the energy construct that goes on in the body to start. So you have three macros that you deal with, and that's protein, carbs, and fats. And your carbs and fats are where you get your energy from. So what kind of separates ketones, the supplement ketones, from everything else is the fact that it does something that we've never been able to do before without using a particular diet. So what are ketones and ketosis? Well, back in the 20s, they figured out that removing all the carbs and accelerating fat intake, kind of bringing down protein intake, would put people into something called a state of ketosis. And they used it as a medical way to cut down on seizures for people who had epilepsy. Then over the years, it got implemented as a way of accelerated fat loss for bodybuilders and stuff like that, and athletes have used it to varying degrees as well. So when I met Abby, she came to me and she said, "What do you know about ketosis?" And I was like, "Well, I know what ketosis is." And she said, "What if I told you that I could give you a drink and put you in ketosis in like 30 minutes?" I'm like, "Well, it's not possible." So she kind of stayed after me, helped me understand who was behind the development of the product, which was a guy named Patrick Arnold, who I knew of. Patrick's kind of a genius, so I knew if Patrick was involved in it, that it would be pretty legit. So I took a long time out to use it with my athletes, with my clients, and they'd always call back and ask me, they say, "What the hell did you send me?" And I'll be like, "Why?" And they would be like, "Well, because I'm 2 weeks out from my show and I was brain dead and I took this and went and trained for 2 hours." So I'd be like, "Damn it." Because I really wanted to be able to prove that the product was bunk, right? Like that was kind of my goal for probably the first 7 or 8 months, was to actually figure out, okay, this is crap. I don't want to be involved in this mess. Because I've spent the last decade really trying to, build my brand, and reputation is my number one thing. One of the things you have to understand is anytime you put your name behind something, it's going to be on you for the rest of your life, the way the internet works, right? Like you can't write anything on the internet these days without everybody knowing about it, 20 years from now. So I wanted to make sure that it passed the litmus test anecdotally first. But then I also wanted to make sure that the science was in place before I really got behind it. So once that happened, once the science started coming out, I got behind it. And I really went full bore into it. And that's when I got Charles on board. So before we had exogenous ketones, as I was saying, the only way to get the benefits that ketones offer you was to do a ketogenic diet. And for a lot of people, ketogenic diets can be very hard. It can be hard for some people metabolically to get into a deep state of ketosis to get the benefits that you get from that. And so it was a case where a lot of people, maybe they wanted the benefits of a ketogenic diet, but then would struggle metabolically, to get into that deep state of ketosis. For example, to understand that you get the benefits of reduced inflammation, a higher degree of satiety, and all of those things. So once I started doing the research and understanding the benefits of exogenous ketones, that was when I was able to go out and really start looking at the people that this technology could benefit. So one of the first questions that tends to come up with people is, what is your body doing with glucose or carbohydrates when you have exogenous ketones coming in? And that was one of the first questions that I had, and that was probably the most common question that comes up with new people coming in and kind of understand a little bit about nutrition and those kind of things. So what we know is there's a downregulation in glucose oxidation, which means your body kind of reduces its tapping into glucose for energy, and it uses the immediate available energy substrate, which is exogenous ketones, and they kind of work in what we call a dual fuel fashion. So that there's glucose still being used at a very small level, but then the exogenous ketones, while they're available for the next 4 to 6 hours or so in the system, they're being used for the primary energy substrate. So why is this, kind of a big deal? I'll tell you why. And if all we have to do is just usually look on the box right here, right? And right there you go. There's the box. So what we're able to tap into is an increase in accelerated rate of fat loss. I could go into the science behind that, but I'll just tell you guys, it is there and it's been provable through peer-reviewed research. We have a higher degree of muscle preservation because, once again, we talked about dual fuel. So if you're not tapping into your glucose stores as much, then you're also going to preserve muscle protein, which means that you're going to stay anabolic post-workout much longer. You have a fast and sustained energy. One of the great things that most people notice about when they tap into the ketones is for the next 4 to 6 hours or so, you have this really amazing steady energy, clarity of thinking, mental acuity, and you don't have the crash and the heart rate jitters and all of those kinds of things that a lot of people will find with, say, pre-workouts or other fat burners that a lot of people take, that can cause people to have like mental flare-ups too as well. I've seen that over the years. The reduced brain fog, one of the things that we know is ketones go towards brain energy. That was also one of the things I noticed right out of the gate was just kind of I did a competition and was a zombie, and I would take the ketones, I would feel great, I would have great workouts. But the main thing with most people is that they just kind of feel like a superhero for the next couple hours. I had a captain in the Navy tell me before he went into a meeting, he actually texted me and said, "Paul, I just took this stuff and I'm in this meeting." He goes, "And I feel like Daredevil." He's like, "I feel like I can feel stuff around me." So, and I get that one back a lot. It's pretty cool. Appetite suppression, that was another big one. Again, we have peer-reviewed research behind that, anecdotal research behind that. And what happens is you have something called your ghrelin hormone, which talks to your pituitary gland to say, "Hey, I'm hungry." So the suppression of the ghrelin hormone is really, really big for a lot of people, especially people that have trouble controlling cravings and appetite and those kind of things. So a lot of people will notice when they drink ketones for the next 6, 7, 8 hours, they just really don't get that hungry. And then we talked about strength gain. There's an increase in ATP that actually uses, it's a more oxygenated version of ATP, but the cool thing about that is there's fewer free radicals that are given off in that chemical process. Why that is important is because free radicals are connected with accelerated aging. So reducing the amount of free radicals that you have kind of going on physiologically is a very big deal into fighting off the aging process. And I think we're all trying to fight aging as much as possible and stay sexy as long as possible. So that's kind of important. Better mood, better sleep. One of the things about the better mood and the better sleep thing is there tends to be a balancing of kind of the neurotransmitters that we deal with, serotonin and dopamine. So you want a level of homeostasis that goes on there. In other words, you want your dopamine high when you're going to work out, or when you're going after something, you need a high degree of risk reward. And then at nighttime, one of the reasons why we see better sleep and the whole mood balancing thing is because there's an elevation of serotonin, and that's kind of when you bring it down. If you guys that eat carbs, a lot of times, when you eat carbs within the next 30 to 45 minutes, that's when you talk about getting sleepy. And the reason why that carb coma happens for a lot of people is because serotonin gets increased and it mellows you out, makes you calm, feels good, right? And so the ketones help with that as well, with balancing out mood issues. Better digestion, a lot of that probably, and I say probably because there's a myriad of reasons going on here, is they do a really fantastic job of reducing inflammation. About 77 to 80% of your immune system is contained within your digestive tract. So for people who also get sick a lot, feel down a lot, those kind of things, a lot of that's related to digestive issues. So the improved digestion is a big deal, because it's not, a lot of people say you are what you can eat. It's actually, you are what you can digest and assimilate effectively. So if you have a reduction in inflammation, especially chronic inflammation, which is connected to just about every major disease that kills all of us, then it's another way you're going to prolong a higher quality of life. And improved digestion is something that's not really sexy to talk about, but it's probably one of the biggest key factors in improving your health overall. And clear skin. Most people don't want to look like they took a couple of shotgun rounds to the face or to the body, and it's just kind of even if it's superficial, having, it's our biggest living organism on our body is our skin. So I think what your skin looks like is often a manifestation of what's going on internally as well. And that comes back to your digestion, the amount of inflammation that you have going on in your body, and all those kind of things. So right there on the side of the box, what the cool thing is that everything we list, and the one for a while that bothered me was the list of fat loss, right? But again, we had some peer-reviewed research that came out a while back that's not connected to the company in any way, that did in fact show that when you take ketones during steady state conditioning or cardio, that there is an increase in fat oxidation compared to the control group was doing it. So we legitimately can say fat loss now and not have a problem with it. So that really, the box does a great job of kind of explaining all of the amazing benefits that you're going to get from using ketones. I've used them in every manner possible, with other supplements, with my with clients, with fasting, with all of these things that all kind of drive towards a higher degree of health and wellness, looking better naked, feeling better, higher performance, all of these things, and kind of combining that. So it's been a really cool ride to implement this very new kind of supplement and technology, and kind of figure out all the myriad of ways that you can do these things with it. So that's kind of what I wanted to do. My Ketone 101 is a little different, I know, than the other people that do it, but I like to kind of talk about the stuff that I've done with it in real life. So that way I feel like it's more relatable to everyone, and kind of give them that stuff. So that's what I got, guys.
Paul, real quick, will you just kind of go what's in it and why our ketone products are superior and more absorbent?
Well, one of the things is, so there's a lot of ketone products that are coming out now, right, guys? So you're probably going to see the market. It's exploding here. It's exploded in the US, exploded in Canada, and you're seeing a lot of what I call knockoff companies. And one of the things they don't understand, because they're so far in the rear on the technology and the research, is how to bond it effectively to salts, and so that way it gets into the tissue in a way. So a lot of people say, well, this one product has X amount of grams of BHB and you guys have less. It doesn't really matter. That's kind of a big deal that's going on now. So one of the things that we do is that we bond it. Abby, you can talk a little bit about the particular sauce, because I can't remember the name because my brain is scrambled this morning, and you can hit on the sauce thing. But one of the things that we do this differently than everybody else. Is we understand absorption after it goes through the small intestine, so that way it gets into the tissues a lot more effectively. So it's a deal of where it's quality over quantity. So, but some of the things that we put in here, and I'll give you guys an example. We use leucine. Leucine is the primary amino acid for turning on mTOR and muscle protein synthesis. Now, so that way I bring you guys in with me here. So there's something called muscle protein turnover. For you guys to understand why this is important, it goes on in every part of the body, and leucine turns on muscle protein synthesis, okay? So that muscle protein synthesis being turned on tells the liver to direct your amino acids into the muscle cells. And this is one of the ways that you look at muscle preservation, and why you have a higher degree of muscle preservation is when muscle protein synthesis is turned on and the body is saying direct the amino acids into the muscle for repair. So we use leucine. So a lot of people would go out and they would buy branched chain amino acids and stuff like that. And one of the reasons why people use branched chain amino acids for a long time was for the leucine in it to turn on muscle protein synthesis. So we use leucine as one of the amino acids that goes into the product that helps with that. And that's another reason why we have a high degree of muscle preservation. Taurine, I've used taurine many times. Taurine will absolutely help with reducing blood volume, and why that's important is for things like blood pressure. We can't make medical claims, but that's absolutely one of the things that can help with the lowering of blood volume. I'm trying to see what those are always the two big ones for me, because those are there's a lot of science behind those, and I really try to make sure that we talk about the scientific modeling that we use with the product, because if your product cannot stand up behind scientific scrutiny, it's going to fall very quickly. And one of the things why we've been able to persevere this long for the last 3 years is because we consistently stand up against the scientific scrutiny that comes behind a new product, and that's to be expected. So that's always a good thing to be able to feel like you can put your name behind it. Hey, we get criticized, and every time that there's some peer-reviewed research comes around, we end up meeting the demands for whatever it is they're trying to test. So that's a big thing for my world, because I work with a lot of world-renowned researchers, do work for them and stuff like that. So if I can't put my name behind that kind of stuff, then, as I said earlier, you don't want your name to end up being tainted by putting it behind a product that can't stand up to scrutiny. So that's pretty much what I got. I don't want to talk too long because I can get really wordy.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was great. And guys, just to kind of answer probably one of the biggest questions is like, how do I take it? When we first start taking ketones, we tell people to drink about 8 to 12 ounces of water just to get hydrated right before they take them. And if you're also leaning towards cutting carbs and sugars and just eating higher fats and taking ketones, it's a good idea to actually increase your sea salt and your electrolytes. So not a bad idea when you begin taking ketones to grab some electrolytes and put a little extra sea salt on your food. Sometimes we start people on a half pack. I don't think you guys even have the pack that has MCT oil in it, which is what we originally had. And so it was really important. We directed people to take a half pack of that, because if they're not fat adapted, it can go through them. And over time, people become more fat adapted, more metabolically flexible. So I don't really even think it's an issue for you guys to take a half a pack. But if you ever feel like somebody had a digestive issue, go ahead and just tell them take a half a pack for about 3 days until you feel acclimated to it, and then try a whole serving again. When do you take it? 30 minutes before you want to be awesome. That's what I say. It's all different ways, for a lot of women, especially mothers, we tend to find that we need it at about 2:30 in the afternoon. It's the natural time during our day when our circadian rhythms start to drop and our cortisol start to rise, and it signals to our ghrelin hormone that we're hungry, even if we're not. And that's where sometimes we lose control of snacking and we get more stressed and more irritable. So men, just make your wives a drink at 2:00 and y'all should be good for the rest of the evening. But a lot of people get off work after a stressful day. Drink it 30 minutes on your way to a workout. If you're doing intermittent fasting in the mornings, it's awesome for the appetite suppression and the clear mental focus while you're not eating food. Or if you just had a really busy day, you can't get to food and you're going strong with people and work, drink it. One a day is fine. I want to be awesome all day, so sometimes I take 3 to 4. Any excess, you'll just excrete what your tissues don't absorb. And, I just kind of space it out between 4 and 5 hour spans throughout the day. I'm not ketogenic. I'm not restrictive enough to produce my own ketones through my liver, because I bring in carbs into my day after I work out, or I have too much stress in my life, or not enough sleep, or I eat too much protein that may convert to glucose. So I wouldn't make my own ketones. However, just because I feel amazing when I cut back on carbs and sugar, I wouldn't have the fuel I needed to function without putting the ketone fuel in me. So I like to tell people I'm keto-ish. I live high fat, low carb. I utilize carbs post-workout, and I use ketones to keep me fueled and energized throughout the day, about every 5 hours. So that's kind of the use of it. Does anybody have any questions as we just wrap up the first part of our Ketone 101? And if you do, just hit the unmute on your phone. Or you can also, like we did this yesterday and people were kind of scared to talk, you're more than welcome to type it out in the chat, if you can see that, any questions that you have on ketones or the use or application of them. Melvin, does this feel the same as yesterday? Awesome. Okay, let me ask the first question we got yesterday. Would anybody like to know what happens to ketones if you're also eating carbs? Yeah. All right. Paul, same question as yesterday. What happens to ketone fuel if carbohydrates are also present in the body?
Okay, so
in one
talking about earlier.
Just because this is an awesome recording and we'll keep it. I'll end it soon.
Okay, so that was one of the first questions that I had. Nobody could really answer it, and I kind of figured it out on my own, and that was what the research showed us later. And it's in one of my articles. So essentially, you're going to have glycogen in the muscle, and then if you've eaten anything, there'll be circulating glucose in the bloodstream. That's what we think of as your blood sugar. So when the ketones come in, because it's a more readily available energy substrate, your body tends to use fuels based on the activity you're doing at the time, okay? So what happens is that because you have a fast absorbing, quick energy substrate in the ketones that tends to last 4 to 6 hours in the body, during that time that it can be used, the body will down-regulate what's called glucose oxidation. So essentially burning glucose for fuel, and it will down-regulate that and use the ketones. Now, what we don't know is the degree to which that's happening, which when that comes out, that'll be really cool, because then you would be able to kind of manipulate your diet with your ketone use to kind of maximize that dual fuel process. So if you think of ketones and then you think of glucose, kind of what happens is once the ketones come in, the glucose comes down. I'm giving you guys kind of a visual reference there so that way you can remember, right? So then once the ketones would exit your bloodstream, if you have activity going on, your body would essentially switch back to using glucose if you're eating carbohydrates. So one of the things, and I actually talked early on with one of our researchers, Ryan Lowry, and I said, what's kind of what's happening. I think one of the first things that probably happens, and I'm just going to give you guys some conjecture about this, is I think that it goes, one of the things that immediately goes to is to brain function. And that's why everybody feels that pretty immediately within the first 30 to 40 minutes, that mental acuity that improves with it, right? And then the other thing is that constant state of energy. Whereas with carbs or glucose, your body kind of tends to tap into those as needed, right, as you're doing stuff. So that's kind of what goes on here, is that dual fuel metabolic flexibility that we see when the ketones come in. So the glucose use kind of goes down, and then the ketone use kind of goes up. I will say this, for people who are eating a high degree of carbohydrates, they may not feel the difference as much, and I've seen that anecdotally, because people who are eating a lot of carbs, what I think probably going on is they have a lot of carbs to tap into. So I think what you would see is a smaller degree of that glucose oxidation reduction, whereas if you take someone who's in a lower carb state or that is more fat adapted, they're going to see a far more enhanced. And I think that's why that you see a lot of emphasis on using exogenous ketones along with a lower carb diet or along with a ketogenic diet, is because the body tends to be able to use the ketones more efficiently. And I personally, I don't like a ketogenic diet for myself, because I think it's very difficult, as I talked about earlier, to get into a deep state of ketosis, but I do run a very low carb protocol. So for me, I think if you're using ketones, you kind of need to look at your carb intake a lot like fueling a car, right? Like if you're just going to drive around the block, you don't put the gas in there and fill it up and let it spew all over the place just to drive around the block. You put the appropriate amount of fuel in, and that's kind of how I use carbs, is I use the appropriate amount for training, post-training, and then I use ketones so I don't have to have an enormous amount of carbs coming in during those times. So that's for people that I coach and deal with that use ketones, and I implement ketones with. We actually manipulate their carbs down because they just don't need it as much. And when that happens, I also find, and not that carbs make you fat, but you have a natural reduction in caloric intake because you don't need it. So that's the side byproduct of that, is an increase in fat oxidation. So we have the same amount of energy, but we have lower calories because of the ketones, which means a higher state of fat oxidation, and we still have the muscle retention. So a lot of good stuff going on there by reducing the glucose oxidation and using ketones as that energy substrate.
Awesome. That's a great answer. Okay, guys, I think we will go ahead and wrap this portion up of the call. And basically, just to kind of carry back to where we began, the company Pruvit, the motto, our key word that you'll see all the time is better. And our philosophy is, if you feel better from the inside out, you're going to be able to achieve your dreams, accomplish your goals, be a better wife, be a better mother, be a better husband, be a better father, be a better athlete, be a better worker. And so, we always like to lead with that educational value of really how you can biohack into your body's natural fuel source. Use this fuel to help make you just more alert, more happy, more energized, have more control over your nutrition, so you can really feel that. And I know that when we feel good, we are better. And I know that I am. So with that being said, I love the spirit of our culture. And I'm looking forward to unbelievable adventures and a huge journey in the Asian market. We're so excited to come and explore just all the potential there and help people transform like we've seen already in the 3 years that we've been doing this. So thank you. I hope you enjoyed today's Ketone 101 with fitness expert Paul Carter and all the benefits that you can get from therapeutic ketones with the product Keto OS. If you'd like to learn more about it, make sure you tune in to my YouTube channel, Abby K Life, and drop me some comments below on what you like and maybe what you want to learn more of.